Hola, and welcome to Career Confident Mujer, the podcast designed for jefas and jefitas of the professional world, the first generation professionals. From triumphs to challenges, we're here to share the stories that inspire you to become the jefa of your dreams. Welcome back to another episode of Career Confident Mujer. And let me tell you, I have been booked and busy lately, and it is so amazing to be able to meet and connect with different mujeres in different fields and boost their self-esteem. So let me kind of recap the past couple of weeks before we jump into this podcast episode. But I wanted to tell you, lately, I have been hired for my career services and for my guest speaking, and I have loved it. A couple weeks ago, I went to West Hollywood for a diverse women in media forum, and I offered career coaching to producers, directors, associate producers, cinematographers, actors, and really help them understand how they can sell their story and really understand what unique value they bring to the workforce. Then last week, I also was a guest speaker for a Riqueza Summit, where I talked about how mujeres can articulate their value and be able to sell themselves so they can have career success. And through both of these events, I've really learned the importance of knowing your story. As a career confidence coach, I think it's so important for you to be able to understand your career trajectory, your career experiences, and take away time to reflect on all of your past experiences so you can understand what things can add to your growth as you see things, you experience things, and you want that to become part of your leadership skills. Or also, you can learn a lot of things and tell you about that's not who you want to be as a leader, right? And knowing those unique experiences help you understand your story so that you can be able to connect with others and be able to share your light. So, with that being said, I want to introduce a podcast series that I'm going to be starting, and it's going to come out in 3 parts. And what I'm going to be sharing with you is my own career journey. I felt like it was appropriate as we start and kick off this podcast. This is going to be episode 9, and it's been a fun journey so far. And I feel like we should get time to get to know each other. And a lot of times, people currently see me in my role and might not understand how I'm a higher education manager and I'm a career coach. What got me to this point? Where did I start from? And it's so important that we share our stories with one another because there are so many hidden gems in all of our career experiences. So I'm excited to get started and get to share and be more vulnerable with you and invite you into my story and what brought me here with you today, whether you're watching in your car, listening at work, at home, wherever you are. Thank you for inviting me in, and I can't wait to share with you. So, when I think about all of the jobs that I have, I want to say that I started very young working, and I always had this kind of entrepreneur mindset growing up, especially because my parents, I consider a version of the American dream, and that really influenced me as a professional and really highlighted what could be available through hard work and through networking and connecting with others and the power of leadership and management and connecting with others. So let me kind of explain. My parents started out, my dad worked in a warehouse. My mom was an accountant. They met each other. Eventually, years later, they decide to put their skills together and build a sewing manufacturing company. Now, when I grew up, in about second grade, we ended up moving to a new area. And I would say that was probably the time that they started booming in their careers and seeing really how being an entrepreneur can impact them and their families, because we moved to a much nicer location in Orange County as opposed to being the Los Angeles County, right? So I'm from Cali area, in case you didn't know. So with that being said, I was often raised around my parents and taken from second grade all the way to high school, always being at the company on the weekends or during the summer. That was where I was at. I didn't have a babysitter. I would just go to the company all the time. And I was a little boss. When your dad is a boss, you build a little complex. So I would have been like 9 or 10, and I loved it. I loved helping out my parents in whatever way that I could, whether it was putting labels on boxes, on products. But in my spare time, I would go on my rollerblades through the warehouse with my clipboard, and I would be marking down what people were doing wrong, and I would be like monitoring them, which was super funny, and taking down notes and sending them to my dad. Like, my dad never got them in trouble. He was always a really cool, understanding boss, and him coming from working in a factory, he definitely wasn't going to take my considerations of people taking too much time in the bathroom, which would be in my notes because I had nothing else to do all day. So here I was timing people, hiding in the warehouse, trying to be a little investigative spy. And I really, from that experience, I think it really highlighted that I got to see my parents grow up without having to be at work at a certain time. They had more flexibility, but I also saw that they worked really hard. They didn't come home till like 6, 7. My mom would often go in on the weekends if you needed to. You weren't getting paid salary or by the hour. You were just putting in your good old sweat, blood and tears and time. And it was a family investment into the career. And that is what I learned from that experience, that I did not have to go into the 9 to 5, that there was something more, that I could build my own career and build opportunities out of a dream, just like my parents did. That was a wonderful opportunity for me that made me see that there was other options other than just working for someone else. So I'm super grateful for that experience. So with that being said, I loved money. Growing up, I was like, well, if I'm working, I better be paid, even though, I mean, they pay for my house. I got fed all the time when I was there. And, but it was just like a running kind of joke, right? So even at the age of 12 or 13, I begged my dad, like, please hire me on, just interview me. I went to his office. I made a resume. And I think that's where my little career coach inside me started. Like, I know my worth. I want you to quiz me. I want you to interview me and know why I would be a good office assistant here, and you should hire me. So that really started my, I would say, career journey. But thinking about the first part of growing up and getting jobs, I want to let you know I took so many odd and end jobs because school was very important to me. So I started working in high school in my senior year, and I also worked all throughout college. I Because my parents had a company and had a business, I didn't qualify for financial aid. So going through college, I worked any job that could offer me flexibility, that could offer me something that wasn't going to be a stressful environment, that needed a lot of mental capacity for me, because I needed to be focused on my school. And so I took on so many odd and end jobs. Like, let's go down the list, okay? My first ever job, I worked for Hickory Farms, which is like selling the sausage and crackers at the mall. That was my first summer. And mind you, I did so good that the next year, corporate office called me because they wanted me to be the manager of the kiosk. And even though I was only 18, so I started there my junior year, and then they called me back for the next holiday season, my senior year. I didn't even have a car, y'all. Okay. I didn't even have a car, but the mall was like down the street from my high school. So but just because you're the boss, I learned from my parents, just because you're the boss doesn't mean you need to be there like all the time. You put people in place to help you execute and do the job, right? So, like, I had no car, y'all. So, I would obviously not be there during the day, but it was a holiday job, and I knew I was going to be off of school during winter break. So, like, when they needed peak, like, I was good. I was going to be there. But when I wasn't there, because I only could go like after school, like close it or go on the weekends, I would hire different people that I knew I could depend on during the day. So that was like key, putting people in place. And then because I learned that at the job that like I was a kiosk at the mall, right? We didn't have a storage. So we had like a storage off site. And they told me, like, oh, as part of being a manager, you need to manage inventory. And I'm like, okay, like, where is this storage? I'm thinking it's on site. They're like, no, it's off site. You're going to have to drive there. They didn't know I didn't have a car, and nor was I going to tell them that, right? So I'm like, okay, no worries. So I knew this girl at my school. She had a car and she would leave school early. And she was just like really like one of those people that was like really independent. She didn't like working with other people, but I knew she liked to hustle, right? So I was like, hey, I remember her name is Monica. So I was like, hey Monica, like I have a job opportunity for you. She's like, really? What's up? And I'm like, you can do inventory. I don't care when you do it, girl. You can do it at 1 a.m. You can do it whenever you want to do it. And I will give you 20 hours a week. You just need to count the inventory, do your own hours. I don't care. She did it. She did it. And I loved it because she was also like into the gym and stuff like that. So her picking up all those boxes, I was like, that's amazing. So this is one of my first jobs, and I learned that even though I was so young, the power of working with other people, giving them what they want and finding out how you can utilize other people's skill sets to make you reach your goal. A lot of times we might take on the responsibilities, and like if someone would have told me as a manager you have to do inventory, some people would have thought, oh my god, that means I have to quit. I'm not going to be able to do it. I'm not going to be able to find anyone to do it. It's impossible, blah blah blah, I should just give up. No, no, no. You always got to check with your connections and your resources, okay? That was one of my first jobs. And then after that, I worked like at UPS. I worked at a bookstore in college. I worked in a RV place where it was close to Disneyland. So they had like an RV park where people, instead of hotels, they had RVs and they would go and book sites there. That didn't last that long. I've also worked in Mexican restaurants at the mall, and all of those experiences, I loved it because they really taught me the hard work, putting your sweat in, cleaning the bathrooms, doing the things that I needed to do to get by. I was always down for it. And I think when you go to college, it can be very hard to find a job that fits your college schedule and lets you get involved. And in college, I was also in a sorority. So a lot of my time was focused on being at events, doing activities. I was the president of clubs. So I had a lot of responsibilities. So like I said earlier, I needed to find jobs that were just random, needed flexibility, and I wasn't afraid to work multiple weird jobs, get 15 hours here and 15 hours there just to get by, because that's what you need to do. And I wasn't too focused on building my career at that time. You know what I mean? I think it really switched for me when I started thinking, okay, what do I want to do for my real job? Is when I started taking on internships. I would take on internships um, that could really help me. And a lot of times my internships were basically me working for free. So that was really interesting, okay? Because the jobs that I was getting paid for were really random, but the jobs that I loved, I was willing to work for free because I had these random jobs that could support my bills, right? So in college, I was studying communications, and my first goal when I was in college was to be a PR, do public relations for an organization, right? If anything, my dream job was to work for a city as a city manager and host their events and their activities. And that was the dream job. Okay. If I could plan to do that and do like weddings on the side, that was that was the career goal at that time, right? And so, with that being said, I ended up doing a lot of internships in college. And some internships included, like, I did PR for someone that had her own agency, and she would do PR for restaurants and take pictures for them to be in magazines and their social media. So I would work for her, do like 10 hours a week, but that was really cool to be able to see what someone does in that job, which really highlighted and showed me that people as consultants can make a lot of money when you know how to market your skills. And people didn't want to do the work, right? And she offered a service and she knew how to put value to that service. And I saw how she worked her own business, and that really excited me because it was like blending the world of the entrepreneurship that I saw with my parents, but that was more like in the manufacturing warehouse space, to now seeing someone do it for themselves. She didn't have to have a huge location or a warehouse. It was her. It was her and her laptop and her connections, and she'd work out of coffee shops. And that was before, like, you want to remember, this is like 2010, right? So this is way before really like working from home was that big as opposed to it is now, like after COVID, right? This was something that was kind of foreign to me, and it really opened my eyes to people working for themselves and building a business and having contracts and like taking their skill sets and not just working for an organization, having their own business and not having that many assets at the same time. So that was really like eye opening to me. I also had an internship at the city. I got an internship at the city. I was really good at school. So I had a recommendation to work as an internship for the city of Anaheim. And it was amazing. I loved my experience there. Like, literally, that like sealed the deal for me, where I loved walking into the government building. I loved working in the mayor's office. I loved writing speeches for the mayor when they would do, groundbreaking, what is that called? Yeah, groundbreaking ceremonies. And, I would love that. Like, realizing that that was a job that I could write speeches and people will go to events and say what I'm saying for them. Like, that was so amazing to be like the puppeteer behind the scenes. Like, that was definitely something that I really wanted to do. And I loved the opportunity to be an intern there. And all of these, I was not getting paid, y'all. These internships, I was not getting paid. I think that's very important to understand that when we look back at our careers and reflect about our experiences, I have clear experiences of what a job is and what career opportunities are and what those differences were. But so many times people get stuck on the salary and paying the bills that get stuck in the gig jobs, that they don't focus their energy on how they are building themselves up for their dream job. So I think if you're out there and you're early in your career and you're doing something that gets by with the bills, but it's not necessarily where you see yourself in the future, find ways where you can open the door into new opportunities, into the fields that you desire to be in. You need to start taking leaps of faith, and you're not going to have the experience to automatically get paid right off the bat. So you're going to need to find what opportunities are out there so that you can help build those skill sets, so that you can help gain insight into those career fields and see if they are something for you. So this kind of wraps up, I would say, my internships, and I think this is a good place to stop for episode 1, because this next opportunity is going to be about an internship that turned into a job, that turned into my love for higher education, and really pivoted everything in my career from wanting to work in the city, doing my degree in public relations. That was the goal, event planning. And this next internship was a whole whirlwind that changed my perspective, changed my career trajectory, and ends up why I end up going for a master's in educational counseling for this internship that just shot me off into a new direction. So I hope that you enjoyed this first part of the career journey for me. And we're getting to learn a little bit more about each other. And you see my perspective, kind of how I grew up, my career journey. So I hope this inspires you. You're hearing a little bit of tidbits and you got like getting to know me a little bit better. So I hope to see you for part 2 of this series. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Career Confident Mujer. I hope you found inspiration and valuable insights to fuel your own career journey. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Remember, you are not alone on this path. Take care and remember that you deserve it, mujer.